Welcome to our first Manna Monday of 2026. I believe it is February the 2nd, and we are about to begin a not a 40-year journey, but a 4-year journey through the Old Testament.
Nice.
Just to go ahead and lay the groundwork of the philosophy for the reading here. Um, what I have attempted to do is to create a reading schedule that you're not going to find anywhere else, because my reading schedule is designed to prevent fatigue. And there are three major components of the Old Testament in terms of material that would likely induce fatigue, and wisdom literature can, because even though it's a little bit more engaging, there can be some sameness. But I've used wisdom literature to break up these other three kinds of material, and so the Torah material, the history material, and then the prophets material. And so basically, what happens is we'll go through a Torah book. We will pause and do some Psalm stuff. We'll go through a history book, do some Psalm stuff, and then we'll do a prophet book. And as we eventually run out over the course of 4 years, the Psalms, we'll do the same kind of thing with the Proverbs, and then we will. Yeah, that's so.
You're
There's
cool.
some method to the madness here, and hopefully you will find that we don't encounter the thing that happens. Bible reading schedules tend to go off the rails in those three places,
Exodus 20.
whether it's yeah when
I'm
you
sure Exodus 20.
yeah
They get the law and then they build the tabernacle for
yeah
like
we're still gonna
ever.
we're still gonna have to do that kind of thing. We're still gonna have yeah
We were
but
just
but
talking.
but
You don't have to go to Exodus.
yeah the fatigue sets in usually around the book of Leviticus, and then with history, if you're not engaged in that kind of material, which I've never had trouble with books of history, but some people do, then that can happen. Or and then sometimes the sameness in some of the messages of the prophets. You're reading Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, like back to back to back. It can be like that. So we're not saying that God doesn't have great information in all these books, but the layout of these books is very much a man thing, not a God thing. And just appreciate that, and try to do what's going to be helpful for us to work on our meditation. With that in mind, we don't have the ability to follow our usual format. We left off last year with ending with the last chapter of the book of Revelation, so we don't have a thing to reflect on or questions to answer. But if you do have anything that you were pondering over the course of the winter, we can uh, help you with that to whatever degree we can. If I don't know, then maybe the group can help. But what anything stand out over the wintertime Bible study that you were?
Like Man of Monday specific or just like in
Doesn't have to be
general?
Man of Money specific, because there isn't really that's the point. We don't have any Man of Monday specific thing right now. Yeah. Oh man, forgot what happened since the last Man of Monday. Oh dear. Okay. That's deep thoughts from Ezekiel. All right.
Pretty quiet.
Yeah. So let's with that in mind, then let's jump into Genesis. Just good to begin our journey with the book of beginnings. The book of Genesis borrowing its name from the Septuagint and meaning beginning. So and, let's see here. We have 31 verses. We have two, three, four, five. There's six people who are here. Once my wife comes back in, maybe that shouldn't take that for granted. She's gone out to help some kids out there, but anyone online would like to join us in reading. Mark, you want to join us? Yeah. Mark and Pam both want to join?
We don't have people say, nope, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. Tommy, you want to join us?
Sure, I can.
All right, so Mark, Pam, Tommy. I think we've gotten. Let's go ahead and leave Chantel out because I don't know if she's going to be busy. So Mark, Pam, and Tommy. That makes with all of us eight, which is good for 31. I'll be shortchanged again, Ezekiel, as Ezekiel would have it whenever he does the math. He always gives me the shortest reading. You don't remember that from Man? That was the theme of 2025 Manna Mondays. So we'll start off with the online folks, and then we'll come back into the room and maybe pick up with Andrew and go around the table here. If Mark and Pam, if you could read just again 4 verses apiece, and then we'll go down to Tommy after you.
Chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering above the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light was good, and good separated the light from the darkness.
God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven, and there was evening, and there was morning the second day.
It's Tommy now, and then come back into the room. Maybe Tommy's not still with us. All right, we'll come back to Andrew. Yep.
Just 4 verses?
Yep.
And God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit in it, in which is their seed, each according to its kind on the earth." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their own kinds, and trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind. And God saw that it was good.
And for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also.
God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning.
Okay.
And God said, "Let the water swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heaven."
God created great creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, fill the waters in the sea, and let birds multiply on the earth." The evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth a living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind." And it was so.
And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth.
And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. And to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Okay. So, as we do, what are our questions over the first chapter of the book of Genesis? And we just had, joining us here in person, the reason Tommy didn't read online is because Tommy actually came here in person. Might not want to volunteer to read when you're actually coming into the and,
And so I was trying to do that. And then Rachel pulled it out, like, oh, maybe I can. And then,
no, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, we are very, very flexible. Remember this, I said yesterday, it's a judgment-free zone, so all kinds of judgment that will not be passed. And so, anyway, questions on Genesis 1. And Mark, if you're talking, I see your lips moving, but yeah.
Well, I was just pondering whether to ask, and I thought I had this down at one time, and it may be more of a metaphysical question, but
Yeah.
what is the thinking behind there being light and darkness before creation of the sun and moon?
Mm. It's one of those things that you end up speculating on. Um, Yeah, because obviously God doesn't explain his rationale in creating as he does. I did. If you remember, we went through the book of Genesis in a sermon some time ago, and I try to point out my speculations when they're speculations. But I think as we meditate upon the Word together, there's definite reason why God does what he does. I don't know why he does what he does, but there's definite reason because we know our God. We know that He could have snapped His fingers and everything is instantly into being. He didn't need to take days to do anything. So there's a rationale that He's setting up and creating a week effectively because we don't think about that. He's creating material creation, but He's also creating time, and so He's creating a week and then establishing the pattern of the 6 days and the seventh day of rest, which will eventually prefigure all of life itself. All of life from the standpoint of the New Testament, we don't have the Sabbath as a day anymore that we regard as holy, but we work in life, and there remains a rest for the people of God, as Hebrews 4 says, and that's heaven. And so all of this week that He creates ends up prefiguring life. So as I think about that particular part, the you can trace this in the book of Job, but you can also trace it in the archaeological record as people were moving away from monotheism and creating other gods. Remember how Paul said in Romans chapter 1, they serve the creation. They worship the creation more than the creator. The first thing that caught man's attention besides God were not humanistic gods that they fabricated. It was actually the sun, moon, and the stars. So the very first things that people worshipped were the sun, moon, and the stars. You see Job talking about that, how he'd not kissed his hands toward, I think, I forgot the exact verbiage, but he'd not worshipped the heavens. So what did God do in creation that already was preparing to be an answer to that? Well, you think about the sun, moon, and the stars, and it's like, well, what do? Well, they give us light. And God effectively says, no, they don't. There was light before there were sun, moon, and stars. And so from the standpoint of the creation account, what is the function of the sun, moon, and stars? Yeah, for signs and for seasons. So whatever pre-existent light there was, I mean, it does say that they are for lights in the heavens, but there was light before that. So they did take on a light-bearing role, but mainly for telling time, which really isn't that significant of a thing when you think about that. I mean, of all your possessions, how precious to you is your clock? And I'm not talking about maybe Dr. Burton has the Rolex over there or something, but for the rest of us, clocks aren't that important. And I'm just joking. I don't know if you have a Rolex or not. But it's just like such a minor feature in life, and then even the way that he speaks of the stars, and he made the stars also. Like it's just like, and we look at the stars like, but it's, and he made the stars also. It's no big deal. And so I think that perhaps the reason for him doing this is to help to serve as an answer to what will be one of the first religious errors, people beginning to worship the heavenly bodies. That I oftentimes see in Scripture, kind of like God anticipating the error, like there's something that's very clearly stated that will be very clearly done wrong in the religious world later. It's God states it first, and then later on, people begin to really get captivated by it and do wrong things with it. And it's like, well, it was there all along, and maybe this is one of those instances. I don't know.
Wouldn't God have been the light?
Yeah, well, so God, when He creates the material universe, it's hard to say, but I wouldn't say God is the light because what does it say in on the first day? God said, "Let there be light." He didn't say to Himself, you know, come into being. So I know that in the book of Revelation, which may be remembering, God is described as being the light of the dwelling place of the saved and the redeemed there. But that's not the same thing as what he's doing here in the material creation. Yeah. So light is something that he did create, whatever that means. And
Um,
on a yeah,
oh,
well,
I cannot. I read an article once. Sarah Tipton pulled something up. And I probably shouldn't make this comment, but just that there is another kind of light
mm.
that
I I was actually just gonna mention that for the more science oriented people.
oh yeah.
And it's hard to say if this is that, because when I get the sense of God creating light and dividing it from the darkness, I don't get the sense that it's this sort of background light but I did, and maybe I don't know if you've read that article or not. It takes a pretty either geeky person or somebody who's connected with a geeky person to have read this, but there was a scientific article and there might be multiple of these, that talks about the presence of a sort of background light in space that's not the produced by luminaries. So
Background radiation.
yeah, 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 and so is that? I mean, and again, I don't know. That's not the image that I get when I read this verse, but who knows? Could be.
What this says, and I think this might be along the lines, is uh, he created the concepts or like the actual physical properties of light and of like entropy and those sorts of things, which I think would also make sense. But
Yeah, I tend to think that there is something that's created on that day.
yeah,
And and what's more, like if we're really trying to like reason this out, and if we're like, well, the sun, moon, and the stars, there are the producers of light and probably more importantly, heat. Then if we're really trying to think about this, what is true of the water on the day of creation? If we attribute all of that to the sun, moon, and stars, then on the days of creation, day two, all that water freezes. On day three, The plant life that's created instantly freezes and dies. It's like we're probably not thinking about all of this. If we're looking at purely trying to reason from present creation into what all is happening here in this creation week, we're probably missing it a little bit because it doesn't reason out. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. But I think that is the thought in Second Peter chapter 3, right? That people say that all things continue as they have from the beginning, and Peter's point is only to point out that they willfully forget the flood. But really, there's potential in just saying there's something very different, possibly happening here. But I think at the very least, we're saying this is subservient. Maybe there's some kind of scientific thing happening, like I said, with that background light that people talk about. So it's things to ponder on a Monday.
Science.
Yeah. So yeah, Chantel just said he blinded me with science. So
Yeah.
yep.
Always.
I was gonna comment on how casual this whole chapter is. Just like he made it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just there now.
And that's meant to, it is meant to really pop out, because when you
It's not
they're
helping you
not
write stories.
they're not intending any disrespect in saying this. So don't get me wrong in quoting them or them wrong in saying it, but I've heard people say before in comparing the Genesis record with the typical ancient Near East creation account or whatever, or the beginnings account. They will say that the book of Genesis is downright boring, because really, when people sit down to tell the story of how things began, there has to be some kind of intense cosmic struggle, some kind of big thing. We've got gods that are fighting each other, and Earth is more or less the byproduct of all their fighting and quarreling, and rather than this story, which which again is much more reasonable and speaks volumes to the real power of God. And I think that there is definite, and probably we miss, one of the things I tried to highlight when I was teaching this text was in verse 2, the fact that when creation comes into being, it's without form and void. There's a chaos that's being described by those words, and various translations in the ancient world will bear that out, like just this really chaotic thing. And what we see God doing is bringing order where there was chaos, and that also. So like the creation week becomes a story of a picture of life. It's the period of work followed by the period of rest, and then the whole process of God bringing His light, and then bringing things into greater functionality and greater being and greater purpose. That's the story of every person who follows God. And so it's a really, I think, like I said, I'm fully convinced that God could have snapped His fingers and everything comes into being. And so the way that He does things is worth thinking about. Um, any other questions or thoughts about Genesis 1?
Well, I kind of mentioned it when we were reading through Genesis 1. It tells us everything we need to know that God created it. And
Yeah,
He made it orderly and for a purpose, and designed it in a way that it made sense, would work.
yeah,
And called us to take care of it and to be good stewards of it. But it makes me wonder, like, there's so many, like, it tells us what we need to know, but reading through it makes me curious and wonder
yeah,
what was the earth like then? How was
yeah,
it different than
yeah,
like the land structures and like mountains, and like what was there, what wasn't there, and then how did God change that over the course
yeah,
of time to make the world that we have now?
yeah,
And there's no, I mean, some ways that we can kind of see evidence of it in our
yeah,
world, but no way to know the full picture. But it
yeah.
makes me curious.
Well, I often think, when you ever you're in a natural, landscape, and you're looking out and seeing what you're like, wow, this is beautiful. And then you have to pause, or maybe you could pause and say, actually, what I'm seeing is broken. What I'm seeing is actually something that was entirely broken by the flood. Like the thing that he made, we are seeing the fragments of that got tossed up and then put back together after the flood. The word that Peter uses, we reference 2 Peter 3. The word that he uses is the word that we get our English word catastrophe from. So there was this catastrophe, and then here now we get what we see here, and so it's incredible that there is so much, call it latent goodness, because I think that whatever he created must have been so much more beautiful than that, because if anything, we know about the influence of sin and the judgments that it brings. Sin, as the songs will tell us, they desolate and mar. That's what sin does. And so, yeah, it just it really is worth pausing and thinking about whatever this was and how beautiful it must have been. And we get the sense in chapter two, when we get into chapter two, of how purpose built everything is, and then even in the context of the garden, the things that we value are already there. Like he talks about the gold and the precious stone, and it's like God knew we were going to find that stuff cool. I mean, I don't know. It's like interesting. That he's like they're going to find this cool. It's kind of like I'll do that sometimes. I'll find a rock or something. I'm like my boys might like to see this. And so it's just kind of cool to think about all that. Think about God the Father establishing all of this. All right. Well, we can if there's any other collections before we talk about our exercise. So relatively short meeting today. I'll introduce our meditation exercise for the week ahead. I want you to create a list after reading or alongside of reading Genesis 1 through 7. Create a list of things that demonstrate that God is the God of all grace. So you're going to be looking in these chapters for the grace of God. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, is where you'll find that kind of first phrased out in chapter 6. But I think that if you're looking, you're going to find a lot of grace. So think about God as the provider of gracious gifts. Think about the grace that is extended to Adam and Eve and Cain and Lamech, and think about the grace even that's extended to Enoch. And so, but don't let even me walking through those events kind of cloud your judgment. You can certainly spin off onto that and you're too late. There's a lot more. I think that if you'll dig, you're going to see a very gracious God, and what that helps us to do is to put chapter 7 then into context, where we see the flood that we've been making reference to. There's a story of grace that's told prior to the story of judgment, and even in the judgment, there's still grace. So hopefully that will be a beneficial exercise for you. And any other closing thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, queries? Anybody want to get into a queue? Have those keywords. Keep going. I don't know. Well, I guess concerns is not a keyword. It's the sound, but yeah. What's that?
Keyword?
He's your son.
I had
Yeah.
a query.
Wait, what's up?
Okay.
See if you say something enough, and maybe something will come out. But all right, let's wrap up with the prayer. Terry, would you like to lead us in our prayer today? Get you do that. You might need to turn on your. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can. All right.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so appreciative of this time that we can gather together and study your word. We ask, Father, that as we go through this process, that we learn to appreciate the many blessings and grace that is provided through you. Lord, also have us inspire our hearts to share this wonderful news with people that we meet and become part of our life, that we might share the grace that God has given to all of us. And it's just in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, everyone.